Pipeline Power Hour. Nina Butler, Head of Marketing, regie.ai. We're talking AI. Nina, how are you?
I'm great, Ian. I'm so happy to be here this morning.
So excited to have you today. Let's talk AI. Obviously, we've seen an explosion over the last few weeks and months. Tell me about what do you think the landscape is for AI right now?
Yeah, so it's a great question. It's a seeming overnight sensation, but in actuality, generative AI technology has been being worked on for decades. But it's only with the introduction of ChatGPT, which I'm sure is a household name at this point, has it really kind of captured mainstream attention, which I think gives this false sense of illusion that this technology sprouted up overnight. But that's far from the truth. And when I kind of think about what the landscape looks like today, I think about it in two different axes. The first axis is you have models that are very generally applicable, right? OpenAI is what powers ChatGPT, and that makes it very good for kind of the everyday use case. You may have a list of ingredients in your fridge and you want to figure out a recipe to create. A general model like OpenAI's is going to be great for that. But then you start to have your other end of the spectrum, and those are models that are starting to be trained in sales speak, in messaging speak for marketers, right? And that's what I think is really relevant for our conversation today is if you're a revenue professional, if you're looking to build pipeline and you're thinking if generative AI can be a way to help boost that productivity and improve those outcomes, those are the models that are going to give you better outputs to meet your buyers. And then the second thing worth kind of mentioning when you think about the landscape as a whole is what are the use cases, right? Are you looking to create sales messaging? Are you looking to create blog posts, social posts, Amazon product descriptions, right? There are all these different flavors that generative AI tools are taking right now. So it's really important you kind of pick the one that's going to be the best fit for you and your go-to-market motion.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, obviously, y'all at Reggie are doing this by, saving time with personalized sales emails using AI. And that's something that like is so obvious. I mean, it's like one of those things that you see it and you're like, of course, this is like the best use case ever as a former salesperson sitting there, writing personalized emails is about the worst thing you can possibly feel like you're doing, but it's so critical and important. So like clearly we see the use case for sales. Clearly we see the use case for marketing, that having this superpower technology at our fingertips. Obviously some people are nervous about this and how it shapes, but generally speaking, it seems like this exponential technology is going to be, put in the hands of humans and allow us to do our work better.
It's totally right. When you think about, what is the role then of the human in this technological evolution? Well, the human still plays a really critical part to that experience, right? And you just talked about AI can help us be great at things that humans are not trained to be great at naturally, right? We're not great researchers on day one. We're not great writers on day one. And when you kind of think about the requirements of a sales professional today, the job description, even though it's sell, it's actually this litany of things you have to excel at, right? And so AI can help circumnavigate some of those more manual tasks to give you more time back in your day to be what you're great at, which is a relationship builder at the end of the day.
Yeah. What are some of the things that y'all are seeing at Reggie that is, really at the cutting edge, that are things that marketers or sales teams are able to use right now?
Yeah, it's a great question. When I think about sort of the evolution of messaging, if you will, when you think back decades ago, it was really marketing-driven language, right? It was one-to-many. It was trying to appeal to as many people as you can with some sort of templated blanket communication. But then you had the emergence of sales engagement platforms like the Outreaches of the world, the Sales Lofts of the world, and that really started to take that one-to-many down to one-to-few, right? It was persona-based templated language. It helped greatly scale your outreach, but your ability to personalize dwindled over time. And so now we're in this really beautiful intersection of where human meets computer, and you can actually start to personalize at scale. And I think the concept personalization at scale has been kind of dragged through the mud over the past decade. Everybody's claimed they've done some version of it, but only with new technology can you actually start to create personalization at point. And when I say at point, that's like true one-to-you messaging, like hyper-researched, hyper-personalized, and personal outreach to an individual at a company and at scale, which is still allowing you to leverage sequence and kind of templated emails, making sure you're infusing personalization at those right moments in time. So when I think about what's kind of cutting edge, it's that you can have your cake and eat it too. You don't have to sacrifice scalability, but you can still provide almost an ABM experience to all accounts, not just your tier ones or not just your top prospects anymore.
Yeah, and what are some of those? What are some examples of ways that that stuff is so personalized?
Yeah, I can give you a great example of how AI kind of helps enhance that overall experience. So specifically speaking to our own SDR team, they utilize Regie to help shortcut what we call a 3x3 workflow, which has become very popular in terms of sales methodology. The intention behind the 3x3 is how can you find three pieces of relevant personal data points on your buyer to then help craft a personalized message in under 3 minutes. Even the best of reps, that can take upwards of 10 to 15 minutes, right? To do all that reconnaissance, pull in the right data points, and then not just use it to say like, hey, Ian, see you work at X company, thought you might like my product, but really take it that step farther to kind of wow the prospect or wow the reader. All of that is streamlined with AI. So all you have to do is open up your sales engagement platform and that email's already been created for you. And I think the real example here is it finally puts sellers into the editing seat, not into the constant content creator seat, which I'm sure many folks listening in today would much prefer to edit a piece of content than to stare at a blank white screen or with bracketed tokens that say personalize here. And you're sort of like, I got 20 personalized emails to get out today, or I have, two ABM campaigns to stand up. This is really like the cognitive load required is very intense. And now it's not with technologies like AI.
Yeah, and ultimately, like we know that the best reps in the world are the ones that can create the most personalized experience, that listen the most, that try to get as much information from the person to be able to solve their problems to make sure that it's the right fit. So it only makes sense that giving those type of people superpowers is obviously, and we always say superpowers, but it's the easiest way to talk about it. Superpowers is really going to help them do it a lot faster. But for the folks that might not be that good at that, going from, that writer's block moment, that just staring at the screen, to, hey, I have a 90% solution that now I just need to edit, is like our dream come true.
Well, it's right. You have, you can make great reps phenomenal, but then you can take mediocre reps and make them great, right? It doesn't matter what your familiarity is with personalization or what your predefined skill set is. You can either go from 0 to 50 or to get from that 50 to 100. If you're like, I know how to personalize, but I want to make sure that I am getting an A+ on every email I send out. AI can now start to read and ingest performant data and localized data to your audience to figure out like what are the exact words and value propositions and personas that are going to net you the best outcome. And now you can start to optimize to that. And that's a level of insight that sales engagement providers don't provide, right? You see superficial things like opens and clicks and replies, but it tells you what's going on, but not what you're doing to inform the output, right? And so that's really when AI can start to be super helpful for frontline teams.
Yeah, I think if you sat down with the CRO and you said, what's the number one thing that you want to do, it'd say, hey, if I could make all of my below average reps, average or above average, that'd be number one. But the thing that they've never been able to do, which they actually wish, and they say all the time, is I wish I could just duplicate my best reps, right? I wish I could just clone them. And it's like, yeah, you can't clone them, but if you can make them 20% more productive, like you said, if you can say take a 15-minute email and make it a 3-minute process, like it's not doubling, that's math 5xing.
Yeah, that's
yeah, really exciting. Any other thoughts on sort of this AI conversation, and being, obviously, we're talking about it from a sales perspective, but there's all sorts of societal ramifications, which we definitely can't get to here in 10 minutes. But any other thoughts on how the proliferation of AI tools is happening?
Yeah, I would say as a word to the wise, again, no matter what seat you are currently in as a revenue leader or individual contributor, do your homework, right? Understand, much like all new technology, it solves problems, but then it creates opportunity to solve things in the future, right? And I think that we're at this intersection right now where we have all this great tech at our disposal, but now the reality is, how do we put it into our workflows, right? How do we introduce this into our marketing motion, our sales motion, in a way that's actually going to give us that productivity lift? So I guess my final parting thought for everybody listening in today is make sure that you're understanding whether you rely on your marketing team to create all your go-to-market content, or your frontline reps, or more times than not, it's a content committee and somewhere in the middle, that you're understanding what all those checks and balances are, and then how to infuse integrated AI into a way that helps you get better, faster, and farther together.